When I was reviewing the topic for today's readings, I got a little bit worried. I kind of thought, well, I may be the wrong guy to deliver a homily on love. You know, I'm a construction worker and a farmer, and I'm not real good at hugging and public displays of affection. I'm trying to get better at that, but I'm not too good at it. Then I thought about that movie, one of my favorite movies, Forrest Gump. When Forrest was trying to propose to his girlfriend, he said to her, "I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is." Love is the giving of oneself for the good of others. When love is true, by its nature, it strives for the good of others. I also know what love is not. Love is not living for myself. Love is not forced. A good example of forced love might be Muslim extremist groups who want you to join and obey by force, submission. Like the group that stole those 12 to 14-year-old girls right out of school. There's 300, 400 12 or 13-year-old girls they stole so that they could become wives for the military, for the men in the army, or used as sex slaves. That is not love. A few years ago, I was in Egypt, and I noticed that walking down the streets of Cairo, almost all the women were covered from head to toe, including a veil over their face, completely covered. And they were not allowed to even talk to any men if they weren't their husband or a direct relative. It sounds kind of like the Pharisees in today's teaching that Jesus was talking to. They have religious police there in Egypt too who enforce these dress codes and rules on women. Many of the women had to walk 2 steps behind their men out of respect for them. When I got home, I told my wife about what I saw in Egypt, and I said, it might be good out of respect that if you walk a couple steps behind me. She said, I'll walk 2 steps behind you, but she'll have a frying pan in her hand too. That doesn't work too good here in America. We talk a lot about love in church, and we say God is love, and we know God loves us. We say we love him because he loved us first. But do those who see us see that love in us? Do they see how we love God and we love others? Jesus tells us the 2 greatest commandments today, to love God with all our hearts, minds, and souls, and to love one another as ourselves. These are very challenging commands. He didn't say love God only when it's convenient or just on Sunday in church, or love people that agree with you, especially that would be loving people who agree with you, especially today, true in today's politics. Now look at the cross. You look at the cross. What could Jesus have done to prove more that he loves us? Well, these 2 great commands are a miniature gospel. They're a gospel in just 2 lines. Can you imagine a world where if every person lives this way, where every word or action is motivated by a deep love for God and the desire for a well-being, the love for others? Another one of my favorite movies in the past few years is a movie called Joshua. It's about a stranger who comes to town. And Joshua helps rebuild the church that had blown down in a big storm. He is compassionate to people. He can see that he loves people. And he's bringing the whole community together. He even seemed in the movie to perform a couple of miracles. It sounds like Jesus coming to town. The town was about the same size as McHenry. Joshua told people in the movie and showed them that they needed to love God and they needed to have God in their lives. And he told people are empty, searching for something, and that something is God. Great saints have always told us the same thing too. In the movie, there's a crabby old priest that was really upset that people were following Joshua and people looked up to him. The priest was jealous because all Joshua did was love people and do good for the community. The grumpy priest confronted Joshua in one point of the movie and told him, holding up his Bible, "Do you know what this is?" He said, "This is a rule book. Obey the rules," he said. "Fear God. God is always watching you. Follow the law." Joshua said, No. I do know what this is. It's not a rule book. It's a love letter. It's a love letter from a father to his children. The priest had known this before when he was a younger priest, but he had forgotten. His heart had grown hard. Joshua also told him, "You forgot how to love." And then he reached out physically and touched the older priest's heart with his hand and healed it spiritually. Later in the movie, we see Joshua in Rome. He's meeting with the Pope. And Joshua said to the Pope, "The world has become such a frightening place. There is so much anger and not enough love. Deep in the hearts of so many people is an emptiness that nothing in this world can fill. And that emptiness makes it impossible for them to love." The Pope asked Joshua, "Then what should I do?" Joshua said, "Remind them that I love them. Tell them that I died for them. Tell them that my love is real. If they open their hearts to me, I will fill their emptiness, so they will be able to love one another." That's the message. That's always been God's message to us, to love. Last weekend I was gone. My daughter Teresa got married. And marriage is all about love, isn't it? We see two young people proclaiming their love for each other in front of their community and in the church in front of God. And at the wedding, she asked me not to be a deacon, to just be her dad. And I was glad to do that. And after, my only job there was reading the prayers of the faithful, and I almost choked up just doing that part of the Mass. So I'm kind of glad I didn't perform the marriage ceremony. It was really special to just be the dad that day. I have 5 daughters, and 3 of them are married now. And sometimes, at first when the boys start hanging around, it's hard to love them. Well, you kind of love them, but you don't really like them when they're first hanging around. But then when they ask for your daughter's hand in marriage, and you see them proposing and making this commitment before the public and before you and before everybody, we grow to love them as a son, don't we? But it's still hard at first to love these guys that come around. And in my talk at the wedding, I quoted 2 saints that talk a lot about love. The 2 saints are pictured in statues in front of St. Joseph's Catholic Church where Teresa got married. And the statues are out front, and the first one is St. John Bosco. And St. John Bosco is a saint for teachers. And his quote that I liked on love, my daughter is a 3rd grade teacher, so it really fits her too. And St. John Bosco said that children will respect you and cooperate with you if you work hard for them. But if you love them, they will follow you anywhere. And the other statue is a statue of St. Teresa Lisieux, the little flower. And that's who Teresa was named after. And she had 2 quotes that I love on love. And she said, "All my life, I've been surrounded by love. And this love has a name, this love has a face. It's Jesus." Then she said that her job, her vocation in heaven and on earth, as when she was on earth and in heaven, her vocation is to love. And that's Jesus' message to us. It's always been his message. Our job is to love.